Meeting for the Finance Committee on February 27th. And first thing we'll do tonight is approve the past minutes. That'll be October 3rd and October 15th, and we haven't had a meeting since that time, I don't believe. So
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of October 3rd.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, then you just have to sign that one. We'll pass
I'll
it
make a
down.
motion for October 15th.
15th, yeah. You have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And both minutes are also passed.
Jerry?
Yep,
I just want to mention, I attended the open meeting law training session.
very good, yeah.
And a couple things came out regarding minutes that I think we need to address to make ours process a little stronger in support of the law. One of the things, simple, is in addition to listing the members present, we also have to list the members absent. The bigger part is we need a detailed summary of discussion of each topic sufficient to allow a person not present at the meeting to understand the substance of what occurred at the meeting. So, so looking at like our past October 3rd meeting, just saying water loop discussed, we actually have to say, Joe asked this question, these topics are, I mean, we need something, it doesn't have to be a transcription, but we need more of a description.
All right, I think the next thing on the budget was a budget presentation, so when you're ready.
It's the time. All right. So here it is. We get started again. This is our, yes, please. So we are,
Thank you. Did the cost of the findings come out of our budget?
My budget.
can thank,
So please,
I was wondering if you could ask.
let me have them back.
Yeah, we can recycle them next year, right?
we will. Although if we keep up the way we've done, those binders will be too small by the time we get towards the end. All right, so last night I presented a balanced budget to the Board of Selectmen. I am giving you a balanced budget. As you know, the way these budgets go, it's still a living document until it's done, and there's lots of unknowns. So what I'm going to do is I've adjusted the budget presentation I gave to the selectmen last night, and I want to give that to you, so you both have the same information. There has, as you know, once we get started, within 24 hours, something changes, and it has, and we feel like we've started the budget process. So I'll let you know where some of those changes are as we keep going. So you have in your book the budget. Did you put this in for them? They don't have that, do they?
Not your letter,
Okay,
no.
so I'll just read it. We're providing you a balanced draft budget for review. The Board of Selectmen accepted the budget I'm presenting tonight. The finance team, and in particular, the finance director, has been instrumental in collaborating on this budget in the areas of revenue forecasting and budget expenses. The finance director has compiled the budget requests and has maintained the ever-changing revisions till we got to here today. The process has gone smoothly, as the many changes that were made last year by the finance team, including new forms created by the new treasurer-collector and the new account numbers and detail for departments initiated by the finance director, have become familiar to the department heads. So the departments have responded to the changes favorably, and as they will be better able to access reports and things like that. So things have gone smoothly this year. Tonight I'm providing you a revenue forecast for your review. The revenues are based on the governor's budget, which is called the House 1. And the current FY20 estimate is $30,021,104, which provides an additional $942,814. The department requests were $30,156,583. Although balanced, I expect the budget to change as we settle contracts and receive additional information on such things as insurance, the snow and ice deficit, There will be changes as the state budget goes through the House and the Senate. As you know, Dudley Charlton Regional was granted a Prop 2.5 override in the amount of $1,543,655. We are in the second year of the three-year plan. So you are also scheduled for a joint meeting with the town of Dudley and Dudley Charlton Regional School District on March 20th, I believe. The state reps will also join us to discuss their budget and future planning. Again, these preliminary draft revenue, and this is a preliminary draft revenue budget. You're scheduled to close, the Board of Selectmen is scheduled to close the annual town meeting warrant at their next meeting on the 12th. So I also want to just take a moment to let you know what the articles are that we have so far. And also to put out to you that if you have thoughts about warrant articles or things, let me know. Generally, you don't, but I do want to make that known to you. So the Board of Selectmen had said that they were going to put a referendum ballot question on, for which is to ask the question, shall the town of Charlton ban marijuana? We are having conversations on what the wording would be, and they will be meeting with council to have a conversation on whether or not that would have any effect on litigation and things like that. So
Now,
we'll
would that be for
stay
the
continued
town
on that.
election,
Yes, sir.
not town meeting?
So that's town meeting, that's Article 1 under town meeting. So Article 1, if you read the actual warrant, you'll see that it's, starts at the date with the election, that is Article 1. And then the town meeting kind of adjourns to the real town meeting, which picks up again with Article 2.
Now, the town election, aren't we having a string of marijuana articles in the town election?
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
I thought at the October meeting, they passed a bunch of resolutions on marijuana and planning board things that had to be at the town election.
They passed a general bylaw to ban marijuana. The CCC, the Cannabis Commission, allows towns to ban marijuana by bylaw. It does not stipulate whether it would be a general bylaw or it would be a zoning bylaw. Some of the towns, before they had any marijuana in their towns, did it by general bylaw. The AG approved it, and they went forward with a ballot question, and that was sufficient. There's an issue now with, we have zoning that regulates them. We have marijuana establishments here. And that is part of what the litigation is about, is to, there's a couple of components, but one piece of litigation is to ask the courts, the land court, to tell us whether or not a general bylaw, because we're kind of confused. We've made contracts, we have a zoning bylaw, and generally you can only change or prohibit a use through a zoning bylaw. And zoning bylaws give protection for grandfathering. General bylaws do not. So we're going to the land court to ask, so what does this mean? Can this be done by a general bylaw? Does it have to be done by a zoning bylaw to stop a use? So that's kind of part of it. So the two-step was to have a town meeting, approve it, and then a referendum.
So there will be a referendum when they're finished.
So I'm imagining they could keep the referendum on and then just try for another town meeting with the correct article. So I don't know where they're gonna go or how they're gonna proceed.
So would everything be purely in a town meeting? Because that's gonna be a waste of time.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, the anti-marijuana people have been packing the town meeting. Where the town voted in favor of marijuana in the general election a couple of years ago. Now, if we bring it to the town meeting with a small body, and bring a lot of people in, it's kind of packing the meeting. But
That's,
what about the people that voted for marijuana in the first place? I mean, that was a much larger group.
Come to the town meeting.
well, I think that that's part of some of the reasoning people are saying, that we really should take this back to the ballot. There are many people that have said, look, I voted for it, but I didn't know it was gonna be here. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but people said I was fine with voting for it, but not there or here. So would people come out and change their mind if they knew that they were going to have establishments actually in Charlton? I don't know. There are some people that say, I will not go to the town meeting, but I will go to the ballot. So that's gonna be a decision that the Board of Selectmen kind of struggle and try and decide. So anyone here, anyone watching the TV, certainly let them know, you know, what your thoughts are about that. And we have been getting comments from people. So some of these are stock articles that we do every year. Town reports, litigation, appropriation of funds for unpaid bills of a prior year, intra-departmental transfers for FY19, and I'm hoping that by the next meeting, we'll be able to start to flush out some of those so that you can be aware to see what's coming up. Town budget, water budget, sewer budget, transfer of funds to and from stabilization fund, cemetery perpetual care, looking at a general bylaw amendment to change the highway department to a DPW. The Board of Selectmen has already changed Jerry Foskett's title from highway superintendent to Department of Public Works superintendent. It is not a director. We do not have a comprehensive, and as you know, part of, you know, looking at that, we're looking at trying to consolidate. So what a Department of Public Works would consist of would be highway, parks, some of the trees, facilities, no. So maybe it's easier for me to tell you what it will not. So it will not be cemetery or water or sewer. Personnel bylaw update regarding the classification plan. Personnel bylaw amendment for developing a human resources department and personnel board. So the intention of this article will be to rescind the personnel bylaw as it is and replace it with acknowledging that we have an HR department and keeping the personnel board and talking about how those will interact to create policies. What it would also do is take the policy, the benefits out of the bylaw and put them into a human resources policies area, so it's not in the bylaw. So everything that's of vacation, sick time, all of those things would just move over. We would make those as policies and move forward that way. Many cities and towns are starting to do that versus, you know, having that at the town meeting floors. Revolving funds, the only request so far that I've had for a change in the revolving fund is the recycling committee asked to increase their limit from, I think it was $1,000 to $5,000. They are getting grants for compost and other types of rain barrels and things like that, and they just don't want to go over that limit, so they want to be able to flesh it out. And as you know, the limit provides so that the town sweeps out the rest of the monies that'll go into the general fund. If it starts to go over. About 7 years ago, we did a kind of cleanup of them. Some of these were starting to get up to $80,000. So those of you who were on the board at that time, we cleaned them up, put caps, and then whatever's not there should go to the general fund. That is not necessary or overage. New public safety building complex, as you know, last year, or at the last town meeting, the town meeting approved the purchase and design for a public safety building. We're anticipating coming back to you, and you'll see that in the capital plan for construction. And zoning bylaw amendment for solar arrays. Planning board is meeting tonight. I believe they have some articles that they'll be discussing too, bringing forward. Put this on the side. So if you want to go to your what page do they have this on?
It's under the tab, expenditure summary. Or your second page. Yeah, you don't have all the tabs.
Okay, so as you know, usually what I do is go through the assumptions and the things that we did based on the budget. What Donna has also done is you'll see below where I've got the assumptions. It's from the finance director, and what she's done is gone through each of the budgets and highlighted the changes in those budgets, so you kind of have a quick cheat sheet too. So, for FY '20, state aid increased $21,004 per the House one. Again, there's two more bites at that apple with the House and Senate deciding on their budgets. While the state and county charges, which are on the cherry sheet, increased $10,900 for a net increase in state aid of $10,000, and $10,104. I do remember the days when we used to get 300 and 400,000 in state aid. That seems to be long gone. Increased local receipts by 111,780. We increased the ambulance fees by 300,000. The Board of Selectmen's priority is to keep all of the 9 firefighters, and when you look at the fire budget, I think it's increased over 300,000 this year too. Did not use one-time revenues for stabilization of free cash. I like saying that each year, that we're able to do that. New growth is assumed at 360,000. Millennium will remain constant at 700,000. The end of that pilot will be in 2020. We're already in negotiations right now with Millennium on how to treat the tax burden that they have. Tax Prop 2.5 increase is 544,656. Snow and ice deficits unknown at this time. We're carrying 150,000, so we can adjust that as we know better when we get to May. Stabilization fund balance is at $1,375,711. Regarding the expenditures, all stipends are level funded. The Board of Selectmen created a stipend advisory committee to make recommendations. I spoke with the chairman 2 days ago, and I let him know that the Board of Selectmen will be closing the warrant at their next meeting on March 12th, and asked him whether or not he was anticipating on bringing forth a warrant article on the stipends. He did relay to me that he was having some trouble getting people to join that committee and be a part of it. I recommended that he reach out to each of the boards and maybe ask them if they would send a representative, and they just do a working day and see what they can come up with. So he may be doing that. I also told him that if he wasn't able to do that, we certainly could come back and look at it in October. Non-union is 2.5 increase as approved by town meeting bylaw. This is the last year. There was if you remember, there was a 3-year kind of, it's sunset that gave them the average plus 1%, not to exceed 2.5%. So they've been getting 2.5% for the last 2 years. This will be the 3rd year. Clerical and fire have open contracts. Highway is a 2% increase. The insurance, we increased 50.8%, 253,141. Medicare, OPEB retirement increases are 16%, 16.88%, which is $227,610.
Do you know our current unfunded liability on that?
I don't have it with me, but we have one, and,
Could you let us know that?
yeah, and actually, I was gonna ask if you wanted the OPEB person to come in and do a presentation on it. Because we had said before, maybe 1 year have the auditor, 1 year have the OPEB. I can make that arrangement, and see if she'll come in and.
Because I looked quick, you've allocated $100,000 into that, right? Which
Yes,
is-
a drop in the bucket, yeah.
Right, so if we could get, some more information on that, I think that'd be helpful.
I also want to say that at the state level, there is some concern from some of the management, mainly mayors and councilmen. I work with the MMA, and I know that there's been concern about the language of the requirement of fully funding OPEB, because their comment is, we have all this money sitting, doing nothing. Is there a reason why we're doing that when we know each year we're still have revenues coming in for this, and have the ability to raise the funds for what we need in that. So, I don't know if there's any legislation or looking at that as any changes, but I know that it has been complained about, so just to let you know that. So we're making good faith effort, which mainly is at this moment for our bond counsel and to keep our ratings and to start putting some monies away. Reaching the goal might be another conversation, so. The overall increase in education is $171,778, which is a 1% increase. The one large factor in it being so low is that we have a capital item coming off of Dudley Charlton. So it's coming off of our budget as well as our revenue. So it's kind of a wash as far as the budget, so it's not like capital is done. It was a debt exclusion. So, but it is almost $500,000 reduced. Dudley Charlton's successful override to their budget and is level funded so they're level funded this year. Bay Path overall is $218,078, an increase of 11.55%. Their original letter to us was $257,000. They did come before the Board of Selectmen and told us that they had held an increase in that budget for transportation, and they were able to get a lot of good competition, and because of that competition, they were able to get a 0 increase. So we have estimated that. I'm waiting for the final paperwork from Bay Path on what their requirement is. And we have no out-of-district students this year, and you know how much that's cost us when we've had 3, and we've done transportation. It's been $150,000 to $200,000. Reduction in special elections. We have 1 less election this year. Increased full-time assistant town accountant salary and expenses for requiring training, $34,105. We increased the full-time assessing administrative assistant, $11,065, and increased the hours for the HR administrative assistant from 22 to 30 for an increase of $9,259. Reduction projected in longevity for all employees of $4,000 due to retirement. So people are retiring, we've got new people coming in, those are less costs. Police total increase is $228,761, which is a 10% increase. The fire total increase is $335,783, which is a 19% increase. That is funding an additional 5 firefighters. So the Board of Selectmen has approved keeping all 9 firefighters from the grant. And you will see that that's one of the reasons also why we have been comfortable in increasing the revenue for ambulance from $700,000, which Joe, you had pointed out at last time about where were we with that, up to $1,050,000. So we've increased it $300,000. A look backwards over the last 5 years shows that that's reasonable expectation. We do want to keep our eye on it because that has been a place where we've gotten free cash towards a capital, and so we don't want to eliminate that. We want to still stay conservative, but we feel that because of the 9 officers firefighters being added, that it's prudent to expect those revenues to increase. Changed the highway department to the Department of Public Works, increased technology hardware from $19,824 to $25,000. You also had requested that we, in the capital, we have changed, we were carrying $25,000 in the capital every year, and we've changed that to the $75,000. So just if you wonder where that $75,000 came from. So it's a $25,000 here, $75,000 in the capital. Increased technology maintenance from $39,593 to $40,000, just rounding up. The Board of Selectmen priority to address pay inequities. We're estimating about $40,000 increase in various line items. And there's an increase in the minimum wage adjustments. It's going from $12, and within 3 years, we're anticipating that it will be at 15. That is state or federal, state. So we're starting to go up, so we're going for those people who were at 12, which were the library pages and in the lowest classification, from 12 to 1350, and then we'll increase that each year till we get to the 15. So by the government subcategories, education change is 171,078, is a 1% increase. General administration is 29,595, which is a 1% increase. Culture and recreation is 15,891, which is a 3.6% increase. Public works is 60,000, which is a 4.5% increase. Human services increases 39,845, which is a 14.8% interest, and public safety is a 508,368 for a 12% increase. So overall, as I said before, the expenses increased approximately 3%. I'm not going to go through all of this with the finance director, but you have it here at this time. And we can come back to having you take a look at the budget, and we can start to drill down. My intent is to have Donna step up and do some of the working with you on the budget detail. And I know that you've asked for budget detail. I want to do the capital now and get that piece done. And then we'll go back to the budget. You'll notice that there is two things there in red, and those capital items, I'm anticipating making those requests in the transfer at this May meeting. The other things I'm anticipating, for the October. So, as usual, you will see in the first column the department, the next column is the request. The first column of the 5-year capital plan is what we funded last year. And then the draft FY 2020 is the request for this year. And again, the cell tower appraisal and the stove, that's not gonna be able to wait until October. I actually spoke with the assessor, and she may be contemplating having a conversation with you even before the Maytown meeting, depending on how her contracting goes. So she's gonna need to get a contract for this appraisal. But we'll let you know later if that's an issue. So the first page is the general 5-year capital plan that I generally give you. On the second page, what we did was try to take a look at some of the larger municipal projects that we can't fund or generally don't fund through this capital, putting on the capital 5-year plan, because it skews the numbers, and we're always trying to make an adjustment to fit with the amount of annual free cash that we get. So these are projects that would have to be debt excluded or borrowing within the levy limit, depending on how we were moving forward. But you can see the public safety building that we will be asking for this year. The police communications upgrade would be part of that project, as well as the demolition from the fire station. Right now, we're holding 25 million. When we went to town meeting, we had showed them how we had enough debt coming off that we could replace over the 3 years. I have been working with the Public Safety Building Committee. It's starting to look like it seems like the numbers are going up every month. There's increases in labor and materials. Certainly the tariffs with China is affecting building materials. So right now, I think we've cut it down and got it around 28 million. We'll also be looking for any additional funds that we can use towards that to try and lessen the amount that we're gonna have to borrow. The cemetery, if you drop down to the bottom, the cemetery storage building, as you know, Jimmy had come before you on that one. We are taking a little bit different look at this point. The highway superintendent, well, DPW superintendent now, has reached out to, at the behest of the municipal building committee, reached out to the architect who had designed the building in the beginning. And he is looking at the possibility of bumping out on the highway barn, soon to be the DPW barn, an area to create a office for cemetery. That does not mean that they would be absorbed into the DPW, but we're trying to consolidate areas. And then we would still have a conversation with you about trying to fix the garage area for storage that he has at the cemetery. So right now, that's what the municipal building committee is looking at.
Robin, on the first page, expansion cemetery highway building, 2.2 million.
Where are you?
Just above police?
What are you proposing for 2.2 million?
This is the draft. This is the component that I'm talking about with expanding at the highway barn, would be the 2.2 million. That is something that we're putting there as a placeholder to have a conversation. And we're anticipating to have information on it now, this year. That's why it's there. When you look down at the totals, you see $3,647 and, $647,900. That's not going to stay, that is not the final. What I'm giving you is the 5-year capital plan, and then what I will be doing as we get closer to May is giving you a recommended capital. So I do this every year, I just put everything in it.
So the 230 he'd look for his cemetery storage building, you're saying is now incorporated into this piece?
Yes, sir.
And that's why it's
Well,
blank on, okay.
This piece would be his office space that he was looking for.
Mhm.
We would still, I don't know that we've actually got the number in there for the repair to the shed at the cemetery. Those are two different pieces. When he originally came to you, it was going to be combined. I think he had 100,000 for putting an office and fixing the shed, the utility shed. And he's found out that that's not realistic. So, these are placeholder numbers. We have not, the architect's just taken a look at it. This is the number we're just holding.
What are we doing with the old fire station if the public building is built?
That's, would be slated for demolition, and you could,
The one on Power Station Road?
the fire station number 2,
Or the one on Power Station Road? Where
my
they are
hope
now.
would be that, my recommendation to the Board of Selectmen will be to put that on the market.
What about using that for the cemetery?
I,
He needs garage space and office space. It's all there.
yeah, I don't think that we're looking at trying to maintain more separate buildings, especially older buildings that have a little parking. So I think what we would do is look at selling that and then using those funds to pay down. I think what we're really trying to look at is whether or not a DPW makes sense and start bringing some of these offices together under one building so that they can share administration, they can share resources. We're not, heating different buildings, we're not insuring extra buildings. Consolidating tends to save money when you do that. And that building, it's a lot of building for a cemetery. And I can tell you that several departments have said, we would like that building. So I'm thinking that if we move forward with the plan that we've been talking about, cemetery would have an office building, an office in the Department of Public Works building. The land development would land use and planning would take over the police station, which would free up space here. So, because right now, we've got the finance director in basically a closet. We really need space. We don't have additional meeting rooms, so we would be able to expand here. We also need more storage. We need to be contemplating on where we would put our storage. So maintaining more buildings is not advantageous at this time. And again, it will be all discussed and I think looked at. So those are my thoughts about, from the conversations that I've heard at this point, but certainly, we're not there yet to make those decisions. But it's a good question. Anything else? As you take a look at this, is there, I will tell you, I gave the departments, I had a department head meeting this morning, gave them the schedule. Donna's gonna be working with them to set up the times. My hope is when water sewer comes in, you'll have an opportunity also to have a conversation with Peter about the water and the well search, which is going very well, so to speak. We are getting ready to purchase land and looking to create our own water source. So they have been very active. Any questions on the capital piece? Okay. Would you like to go? So would you give them an update on this year?
Yep.
So where we are this year?
So two things. I'm gonna hand out the analysis I did on the ambulance, just so you can see where I was coming from, that we could sustain the increase. Probably should have held punch everything.
At least Robin pre-punched hers.
I know, and I told her to, and I didn't do it.
Do as I say.
Yeah, not as I do. So, I'll share this one. I think I have one in here, but. So basically, the last column is only the first 6 months of this fiscal year. But overall, the revenues that they've been bringing in has been climbing since they've added staffing. So as of 6 months, you had 646,000. So roughly double that, and you'll be probably up around 1.3. So I think we're good at going to 1,050,000 comfortably, and still leaving some funds in there for maybe when capital projects come up for ambulances or whatever. And I also put their remaining budget. The first line just shows what their outstanding receivables are. So even though they've collected 646,000 this year through December, there was 723,000 that's out there pending to be collected at this point. Anybody have any questions on that report?
If I may, Mr. Chair, Donna, the last line item, the 3590, undesignated fund balance, is that an actual at this point, sitting on the books?
So that was their, that's the fund balance right now, is what they have in there. And then we'll be taking 1,050,000 out of that.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I have to have, that was one of the things in these reserve funds, you have to have the money there at the time you make the appropriation, so I can't like anticipate through June and.
Yep.
This one, was just up through December, just the collections for local receipts and state receipts. Just so you get an idea of where we stand on collections.
Yep.
So, not to be concerned, I put the budget, as you see, is down kind of in totals, because I don't segregate by the years, although it is on the ledger collecting that way. But when I do the recap, it's not segregated by the different years of the different minor categories. So for motor vehicle, we budgeted 1.8 million, and we've only collected 343. No panic there, because we have just issued the bills. Most of you probably got them in February, so that's your big commitment. That number will change significantly after we collect after a month's worth there. So by the end of March, I should have a good idea where we stand on, that's your biggest item anyways, is the motor vehicle. Other taxes, we're doing okay. We're already collected what we estimated. Penalties and interest, we're just about it, almost at 50%. I don't anticipate that being really short at all. Payment in lieu of taxes, that's the 700,000. We've already collected for 19. I think that was 20 years, right? The millennium, was it 20 year?
This is the last year.
Yeah, so next year will be the last year, so, the 1,921 was just, payment in lieu of taxes that was calculated, that was above and beyond, it's not to them, it was just, that's the category it goes in. Fees, we're at 71% of what we estimated. Other departmental revenue, we're at 52%. Licenses is another one that's kind of deceptive, so I believe you do your alcohol licenses as of January 1st, so that revenue is not posted yet on here, this is only through December. And then your dog licenses is another one, will jump up. Meals tax, we're at 65% collected, so that number's gonna be up. Fines and forfeits, you're at 48% halfway through the year. Investment interest, its earnings on investment is 219%, so we've more than doubled what we thought we were gonna get, thanks to the interest rates going up. In miscellaneous revenue, we've already collected everything that I had projected, so we're not up and over. But non-recurring revenue is down. That one I can't really project, but it is a small amount. Things might go into that if you sold some surplus equipment. You might have an auction or something in the spring, and that will go in there, but it's not really a large ticket item. So overall, I think we're doing really well with what we projected. And the last page is the state aid, and that should be about 50%, and it is. So it's 51% collected.
Just a question on the court fines from the state.
Yeah,
The Supreme Court just ruled that some of that forfeiture money can't be kept. I don't think we have that much.
forfeiture, well, this court fines is like speeding tickets.
Okay, so no forfeitures in that.
Now, the forfeitures would be different, that, you're talking about like a drug seizure? Yeah, so, we typically, don't get that, the Worcester gets it, and then once it's cleared, they would send funds to, like, the law enforcement trust fund. We did have one recently where we did the seizure, but it's kept in an agency fund until the court decides if the person's at fault or guilty or not. So that would not be in our revenues. Any questions on this? I'll
So
give
if
you
I-
an updated one at the end of March.
If I may, Mr. Chair, so everything's rosy? I mean, you don't have any concerns?
Not any concerns on the revenues, we're good on the
Solar money?
revenues. So solar money, interesting enough, we were in court on that, on how we calculate. We've been calculating based on an assessment, not a pilot or any kind of agreement. What you could, if we lose that case, there's gonna be, it would be abatements. So that money has to come from overlay, and I've put some extra in overlay. I keep putting extra in because I'm not sure where this is gonna fall. A few years back, Verizon was one that all the cities and towns got hit with a payment for, out of the overlay, and most people didn't have enough even in their overlay to cover it. It doesn't change your tax levy. So what's gonna happen, if you look at the revenue budget, what I have for new growth, that 360,000, that could get impacted if a settlement comes, or decision comes to not have it be part of taxation by the time we set this rate. It could impact that 360 and lower that amount. There's 6 new solars right now. That would be, if they wiped it out completely, it's like $265,000 of new growth. That new growth is projected a little bit lower, but not 265,000 lower, so that would drop there if that were to happen.
So when I've been saying we stand to lose $1 million, if we lost that, it would get redistributed to our residents and businesses.
That's how they did Verizon. They don't take it and recalculate the levy. The levy just gets reallocated amongst the taxpayers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Too bad the solar didn't pay for itself. Different question on the police outside duty. I know that's been a problem in the past. How do we stand on that?
We're doing really well on that, and as you can see on that report, there's a line for police administration fees. It's on the section that says,
26,628?
yeah, that sounds right. What section am I in? Oh, right at the top of the page, yeah. Yep, 26,000. So that's the percentage that the town collects on the billing of outside detail. So now that we've got it under control, that number's, I'm making sure that number gets into the general fund. It was unclear before whether it was getting, I think it was getting all reported into the outside detail account. And even with that, they didn't have enough money. So now we're reconciling every month and making sure that the administration portion gets moved into the general fund.
How much is outstanding, do we know?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's not, they're very aggressive. It's a small amount.
Okay.
I'll have to give kudos to the chief and the administrative assistant, because they don't pay, there's no work. You can't know another detail, so they've been really aggressive in collecting.
Yeah, that's kind of a sore spot with a couple of us who went through that whole thing. so.
Yeah. But we check it every month, that make sure we're in balance with what they have on their receivable, and that nothing's going very long outstanding.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And Donna, you may be covering this, I don't know, but how much revenue, how much money do we have in various accounts from lawsuits and settlements and the like that are on the books right now?
Oh, you have a variety, because you still have, from the ExxonMobil settlement, where you've transferred money out for refunding betterments and committed interest. We had some people that didn't come in for those, so there's still a balance there that needs to, we were just talking about that. At what point do we cut it and say, okay, that's it, you can't come in, and we're gonna close that back out? You have for debt that you put over there to refund debt, but we can't do refunding on the debt on some of them, so we just have to pay down. I think there's 2 or 3 that we had, they wouldn't let us pay early. You have to pay over finish the repaying over time. And then there's still a little bit left in that account that was still in the reserve fund, that the state let us put in the reserve fund. Do you remember how much that was? We were just talking about that. That was undesignated.
We have Casella money, that's some, so there's some different pots, and those are the places that I'm gonna look at, if the public safety building gets passed, to
So-
try and lessen some of that, cause that's exactly what some of those kind of settlements would be used for, as a one-time.
Right, so could we get a report on that, just to see what the totals are? And
Yep.
I think it's still a significant amount of money, if I'm not mistaken.
It's $2.6 million.
Twice what our reserve is right now.
So you wanna think well about how much to commit and how much do you really wanna keep in reserves. There are other towns that keep more money in reserves than what we've done. Generally, if we get to $1 million, people think that, oh, well, we can spend that. In today's day and age, you never know what kind of emergency we may have, especially with looking at climate change and some of those things and some of the natural disasters that are coming, it might behoove us to think about having some more of a capital type stabilization fund and not touch those and have them for emergencies.
I think that's a great idea as a stabilization fund, because then it's a 2/3 vote to move it,
I agree.
as opposed to wherever it may be sitting today, which I don't think would require a 2/3 vote to move it.
Majority.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. When we, and I'll get you actually the balances of some of the trust funds too, because we did create, 2 new stabilization funds, one for water and one for sewer, so.
And, excuse me, one more question while we're on that subject. I saw a capital item for sewer. For $3 million, 2021, an expansion. Sewer improvements per state permit. I know it's out another year, but I just wonder why that wouldn't get paid out of some of the trust funds if the money were there.
Are you talking about on the second page?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not, only putting general fund type things here,
Okay.
it would be paid out of the sewer. But I'm just trying to show you what kinds of things we have coming up.
Okay, thank you.
You'll see also in the budget, there's been some things, moved around, like tree warden is now in, Department of, Public Works. Your recreation fields have been moved into Department of Public Works. So I've tried to notate, on the detailed budget, which I have a book, that you can look at that has all the detail to it as well. But there are also some new categories that I wasn't quite sure of an amount yet, and that was the stormwater, management, which is kind of testing the waters of that. We now have to go through the permitting, which you know a whole lot more on, for stormwater management. So you'll see it in a couple areas. It's in with conservation for a piece of it, and then also in with DPW, which is more construction. One is more planning of it, and one is more construction of it. But there is, I put at least a little bit there so that we paying attention to it. I don't know when we'll have better numbers, and I also know you're trying to get some grant money to help us with that. That's state mandated.
Do we have a budget calendar for departments coming in before us?
So we actually, this morning.
Gave it to the department heads today, they started to fill it out. That's one of the perks of coming to the department head meeting, that you get to pick your time frame first. So Donna's has it. She's gonna type it up and send it out to the department heads so that those who were not at the department head meeting can fill in their times. We are anticipating starting your sessions at the March 13th meeting.
So right now, on the 13th, 20th, and 27th, we put them 15 minutes apart, but you have a 6:30, 6:45 on those 3 days, and on the 13th, right now, I have a 7 as well. And I have not, those were only from the people who were at the meeting today. I haven't sent it out yet, but that's building, cemetery, highway, library, planning board, police, and technology.
Did you say 20th?
Yep, 13th, 20th, and
Well, the
27th.
20th, we're meeting, the joint meeting, so.
Dudley Charlton?
That's right. So we will make sure those get reallocated to
At a different
either the
day.
13th or the 27th, and then we'll add in the following week.
Yep.
You're right, absolutely right. Good catch, thank you.
That'd be in April.
And I'm sure that some of the ones that weren't at the meeting today will sign up, but if there's anyone that doesn't sign up when I send this out, I'll send it to you, Jerry, when I
Okay.
get here
And I'll
back.
make sure everybody gets a copy.
You can let me know if there's anybody that didn't sign up that you want to have come in.
Okay.
And as usual, we've let them know that if you have a level funded budget and you don't need to or want to come, you're not required to come. So I encourage them to take advantage to come and talk with you and answer questions. And we have some new department heads, so we're looking forward to meeting them. We have an IT person now, we have a facilities person, so we'll be looking to have them come and meet you. So you're gonna have a busy month of March.
All right, so that. The department request, they'll be set up here. We had a note on override status, that's going along and that's all set now?
We
Million.
haven't necessarily heard anything different.
Okay, and that's the 1.5 million, and that's just continuing on forever.
The agreement was to level fund for 3 years, and for those of you who don't remember, they had $1.5 million. They agreed that their first year they would take 500,000, and then they'd have $1 million for their capital use, and then the second year they would take the next 500,000, which would be an additional $1 million into their budget. And then they would use 500,000 for some of the capital technology and things like that they were trying. And then in the final third year, they would assume that and they would get up over the 3 years to have an additional $5 million in their budget. Which also has given us a little relief because, their increases would generally come in and take sometimes the whole new growth and the Prop 2.5.
And the only thing to keep in mind is I have reduced the Dudley Charlton budget by the amount of the debt exclusion that we've made final payment of for the middle school. So I've reduced that because I have nowhere of getting that. It was a debt exclusion, the debt exclusion's gone, and they're not paying the debt, so that has to come in for both sides.
Now, looking at the school roof they were talking about, that's up in 22 now?
Well, that's where we're putting it.
Yeah.
And I've
For now,
asked the
yeah.
school to give me a their 5-year capital plan. I haven't exactly received that yet. What I've been told is that they're in the process of redoing one, so, we can have that conversation certainly, I think, on the 20th to find out what they do anticipate, but I know that they have been talking about, needing to do one of the elementary school roofs.
Let's see, town administrator recommended budget, which we just did. And we did the 5-year capital plan. So now we're down to snow and ice.
So we're holding 150 in the budget at this time, and because we're still having, I think we're getting snow tonight.
It is snowing.
So it's,
Confirm that.
Yeah.
one of my favorite expressions, it's a moving target. So we'll bring more information to you on that as we know better.
You can pass that around, and that's,
Oh, also, he did request for a deficit spending, and that has been approved.
that's, and I think the last thing I know of anyway is the chip-in ceiling.
Yes.
It's
Sir?
right here. I'm just writing.
Do you need a copy? or-
Balance and return in reserve.
She's telling me to put holes in things, she's taking my documents, I don't know. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so, the municipal building committee met. They heard concerns about chip-in. So we have an issue with mice, with rodents, and an issue with droppings. And as you know, chip-in has food. We would prefer, the municipal building committee would prefer not to wait. And they felt that it was unknown and emergency. So we are actually bringing it to you and asking you to fund this. It is in the amount of $11,000. And I'll pass this up. You have a $90,000 balance in your reserve. Our facilities person has gone through and gotten the quote, so he's all ready to go. It's a real number that we know. And we'd like to get this done as soon as possible, and I'll hand this to you. Do you have the backup?
And I can attest to the mice.
Yeah, I think that's the same one, if not, take a look at it.
Our archive storage is right next to that, and I did a lot of cleaning of old stuff in there, and I was like, ooh.
Has anything been done to try to exterminate?
We do have an exterminator. It's working, and they're still here.
Have they done some air sealing and all that stuff? Try to find where they're coming in and block
They have
them?
done that. We have traps everywhere. And we think that at least putting the ceiling will kind of contain and do some of what you're saying, like that stopping.
Yeah,
Right,
it just
the
doesn't
problem-
stop the actual problem, but it's
No.
just to
Protect the food.
protect the food.
Did everybody had a chance to look at one of them?
Oh, that's the original.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm gonna want you to sign,
Yeah, they're all the same, but, so you get.
if you approve. So the only other one that I know, for now, of a reserve fund that may be coming to you might be one of, the ones in red, the cell tower appraisal for 18,000. And if that needs to be done sooner, when Debbie comes to talk to you, we'll bring you a reserve fund transfer for that.
I'm sorry, what did you say, there's 90 in the reserve?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
You didn't get that
I
one.
didn't get that far.
I didn't get that copy.
Didn't get that far.
11.
I think it's the same as what you've got, but, so I do hear a motion to approve the transfer of 11,000 for the chip-in ceiling.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion, is there a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. They have not really asked us for anything, and generally they get volunteers to do their work downstairs. We don't hear much from them, so it's nice to be able to assist when they need some help. They do a lot of good for the town. I think that's all we have, unless you have anything else on your.
I don't know if there's any new business, we don't,
I just wanted to ask, was there an issue, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but the roads, the plowing this year, and we haven't had that much snow, was, at least in my road, terrible. Back roads, terrible. I didn't know if there was an issue in the department or.
Not that I'm aware of.
This is
Oh.
advisory, this is the transfer.
I know we've had a lot of, it's been less snow and more rainy, ice freezing, and I know that has been causing more problems. We had a lot of flooding,
Yeah,
and it's been an extreme year this year for water.
Mm.
So when water gets there and it freezes up, it's much harder.
now, we have to
Stay
assign
on
both
top of it.
places?
No, sir, just the reserve fund, not the advisory part.
Well, you have the tag. next
Tag's
to
on the advisory part.
Oh,
We'll put it down there, so we'll start over.
yeah, I mean, I
You can
take back
sign
roads
both.
to, at all the other towns that I go through,
I do it all the
Some
time.
will.
way better.
I'm sorry, what?
All the other towns that I've gone, that I take all back roads to work. And Charlton's usually great. I don't know if anybody else has found it this year, but my road in particular is terrible. And a lot of the back roads are terrible.
I'll pass that
Yeah.
along.
I was actually gonna call to see if there was, because I know earlier in the year, he had a breakdown, didn't he,
Yeah.
with one of the trucks?
We did have some issues
Yeah,
with trucks.
so,
I think one of the big problems this year has been the ice more than the snow.
yeah,
We get a little snow, then it rains and freezes, and it makes an
Right.
awful mess.
But I'll tell you, we have one of those roads, the new system he's got there of the oil and the gravel.
is that working?
Perfect in
Yeah.
the winter, because the minute the sun gets a little bit, you get traction.
Have you been to Meadow Lane?
No.
No. You should see the potholes. It's like a. terrible.
That's why I moved on from Meadow Lane.
You fill in the amount of the transfer and the date you want us to?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
already signed?
Yep,
So you can put in what you want.
So you signed in this right spot?
I guess.
You're welcome. Any other new business we don't know about in time of the agenda? Hearing nothing, make a motion for the question. Hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
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 So you're loaning us these, Donna, for the time being?